Czechast, a podcast in English about Czech and Moravian society, history, culture and economy.
Hello and welcome to Czechast, a podcast in English about all things Czech. I'm Vít Pohanka, your host, and I think that sometimes we don't realize that between 1990 and 2010, over 2.3 million people were born in Czechia. They make up what we call Millennials and Generation Z. Their world is one of smartphones, open borders and digital nomadism. Very different from the one where, for example, I grew up. And while we talk a lot about this generational shift, we rarely stop to ask what their lives actually feel like. Martina Šmídová is part of this generation. She left the Czech Republic to settle in Thailand. But even there, more than 3 decades after the breakup of Czechoslovakia, she finds that old labels persist.
We kind of bump into it a lot because most of my friends are European and they do feel like Czech is Eastern European. Many of them think it's still Czechoslovakia, so that's another issue. But
they still do, yeah?
Yeah. And so many people in Thailand, they ask me, where are you from? I'm like, from Czech. They're like, Czechoslovakia. And they, oh, yeah, I know. So it's still there. After all those years, it's still there.
Martina has also built a following through her lifestyle Instagram account, where she shares her daily life. But even there, she gets reminders of where she comes from, often in the form of comments on her Moravian accent.
It's kind of funny, I realizing it now because I've started this Instagram account for Czech people about my life in Thailand. And I get so many comments on my accent and like the way, I appear that like, oh, she's Moravian from these like Prague people. So I was like, is it that bad? Like, do people actually realize that? So I'm getting this feedback, so I'm sensing that much more than I've used to before.
Now, Martina's story might seem like a carefree adventure, and in many ways it is. But as we'll hear in the next few minutes, life for this younger generation of Czechs, despite what older generations might think, isn't necessarily easier or more carefree.
Czechast, a podcast in English about all things Czech. Whether you're an English-speaking expat living in Czechia and Slovakia, or a descendant of the Czechs, Moravians and Slovaks who left for a better life in America, Australia, Britain or Canada so long ago that you don't speak the language of the old country, this podcast in English is for you.
Ahoj všichni, tady Kovy. Vítejte zpátky v oranžovém pokojíčku, kde se na tomhle kanálu...
Meet Karel Kovář, or rather Kovy, a hugely successful Czech YouTuber and vlogger. His YouTube channel boasts over 1 million subscribers, which is no small feat in a country of just 10 million people. His videos are funny, but he doesn't shy away from difficult, sometimes downright serious topics. For starters, he warns against oversimplifying generational labels like Millennials or Generation Z.
Já mám totiž pocit, že a potkávám spoustu mladých lidí, kteří mi říkají, že pro ně ty generace trochu přestávají.
I get the feeling, he says, that generations are starting to mean less and less to young people. They might have a sibling 3 or 4 years older or younger, and even between them there's already some sort of generational gap. One's on TikTok, the other's on YouTube or Twitch, and suddenly they know different creators, use slightly different language, and have to explain things to each other.
Jsem těsně na pomezí, jsem ročník 96 a to je tak jako zlom mezi tím, že někteří
And Kobe is right on the edge. He was born in 1996, which is kind of a turning point. Some sociologists say he's still Generation Z, others say that he's a millennial. So he calls himself a zillennial.
Nerad vidím, když se tak jako trošku zlehčuje to, v jaký době...
What's perhaps more important is that Kobe points out how older generations often think young people today are superficial, relying too much on digital content and an easy life. But they tend to forget just how difficult and challenging the environment has been for millennials and Generation Z.
Vemte si, máte prostě lockdown, máte tady jako válku za humny a máte tady sociální...
Think about it. There were lockdowns during COVID, there's a war right next door in Ukraine, and there are social media platforms with algorithms that still feel like an unexplored environment. We are only just beginning to understand what they are doing to us.
A já si vlastně sám nedovedu představit, že bych teď byl v těch formativních letech, že by mě bylo 12. Že by bylo...
Kobe himself can't imagine what it's like to be in your formative years now, being 12, 15 or 17, and having your personality shaped against the backdrop of all this. He concedes that it must be incredibly difficult.
Lidi si pořád často myslí, že žít v Ázii je zaplakatel. Jenže když chceš hezký...
And now the main guest of this episode of Czechast, another successful young Czech of this generation. Disillusioned by a well-paid but unfulfilling corporate job in Czechia, she became a digital nomad and finally anchored on the island of Koh Samui in Thailand. And I found her profile in Business Insider, a prominent New York-based multinational financial and business news website.
So I'd say I am someone who willingly left safety and comfort of my previous life in Czech Republic and built something better and on my own terms. You know, some people may call it like crazy, but to me it was a necessary thing to do. And I am a freelancer working remotely from Thailand, helping entrepreneurs bring more like freedom and clarity into their own businesses. And in chasing my own version of freedom, I've learned a lot, and now I can help others do the same. So,
just for the record, would you call yourself a digital nomad?
Yes, I used to do it when I was traveling a lot, but now I'm more kind of an expat person because I don't travel as much anymore. I kind of find myself home in Thailand, in Koh Samui, where I stay. So, not anymore.
I actually realized before the interview that I was in Koh Samui back in 1996, nearly 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And let me just mention that I remember Koh Samui as this place which was for tourists, but it was very well developed. I think they were boasting, the locals, that there was a kind of, I don't know whether written or unwritten rule that no hotel would be higher than the highest trees. But that was back in 1996. Now we are in 2026. So I just wonder, what does it look like? What is the place like?
I think it's changed drastically since like 30 years since you visited. It's getting super developed. There are like constructions happening all over the place. It's really like a booming island. I don't know if you know what happened to Bali in Indonesia, but it's an island which is like overcrowded with people. And I have a sense that this is coming to Koh Samui in the next 5-10 years. So it's like, it happened to Phuket in Thailand, which is another island, that too many people are moving in with the opportunities of having an online job. There is so many people looking for different lifestyles, and Thailand is an amazing place to live. So it's just booming and it's getting crowded.
You just mentioned that, and don't worry, we will get back to you. I'm just curious, Thailand is a good place to live because the living costs are still kind of advantageous when compared to the incomes that we can have working digitally, probably for the Western 4 big companies.
Yeah. So regarding the prices, what I would say, it really depends where are you in Thailand. Like Koh Samui and Phuket are the most expensive places to be, and you can compare them to European prices. There are some like cheap places, but even like more expensive places than in Europe. And in general, I actually spent more money here than I would back at home, but for such a different lifestyle, for much luxurious. You have, all the services you need. We have cleaners, and we don't cook much because you have food deliveries and stuff. So it's just the lifestyle is so different.
Now, If you can take us back to the moment when you decided to leave your corporate job in Czechia, which you had, what was going through your mind?
Honestly, I don't think there is like a single dramatic moment that happened, but more like a growing inner voice telling myself, you're not meant for that, there is more for you. And it was just that I was really exhausted because I was traveling 1 hour by car to work, spent 8 to 10 hours there, 1 hour back. So there was literally like no space for a personal life for me because I was either working, sleeping, or in a gym. That was it. Didn't have time to meet my friends, to meet my family, to focus on whatever I wanted to, right? So it was like this continuous feeling of there is going to be something better and I just need to leave. I need to save myself and leave because I had a feeling that I am not in charge of my life. My life is in charge of me in a way. So one day I was just like, I'm done until it's too late.
If it's not a secret, I mean, you said that you commuted for 1 hour from which part of, I suppose, Bohemia to Prague?
Yeah, no, I was actually living in Olomouc and I was driving from Olomouc to Moravská Třebová daily.
I think it's just funny how I assume automatically, if you say corporate job, that I've got it connected with Prague, which, what it tells about me and my generation. When you are from Olomouc, my beloved city, where I studied and spent quite a few years, and you were going to Moravská Třebová, which is not a very big place, which I pass from time to time by car. And, Moravská Třebová is not a place that I would connect immediately with the corporation. But of course, we live in different times. So you're Moravian, right?
I am Moravian, yeah, that's correct.
You wanted to say something and I jumped into...
Oh, no. I just wanted to say that I've worked in automotive industry in this like huge factory. So that's when most of the factories are in like small cities, because you can get a lot of like cheap employees there. It's better to build the factory somewhere else than like in Prague. So
let me just mention that I did a Czech story about Kvasiny, I think even 2 times, which is in Eastern Bohemia. That's a different place. I mean, that's like a cluster, business cluster, but a small place. I mean, it's in the countryside as well. So you are absolutely right that the big companies are kind of decentralized all over the country. Now, back to you. You've described feeling trapped in your 9 to 5, but from what I hear, it was more like from 8 till 6, at least, I suppose. What specifically made you feel that way? Was it just missing the family, friends, or was it, missing personal time?
Yeah, it was like the total lack of space for myself and my personal life. So when you're either working or traveling or sleeping, there is nothing else. So I literally felt trapped in my days that I had no space to whatsoever, to feel sense of freedom. If it wasn't the weekends, that was what I was living for. It's like, oh, finally weekend, so I can do whatever I want. And I kind of knew there's gonna be more than just a weekends.
Now, you're in Asia. Was that a choice based on your previous travels? Why Asia? Why not, the Caribbean? Is it the cost effectiveness of the thing, as you mentioned before?
Yeah, so I think it's connection to like multiple things. One of them was the pricing for sure. One of them is food. I'm a foodie person and Asian food is amazing. I just love it. It's the Asian people and the Asian lifestyle in general. What I love the most about Asia is people don't really care about status. They don't care then what you wear, what kind of car you drive, how you look, like those little things which you feel kind of pushed into in Europe. I don't feel it here. So that was like, for me, it was like a huge wake-up call that I'm not aware of myself. I am actually myself. And people don't care what, how much I earn, or they don't care, how I look, because they're just nice people and they just connect with other people, and there is nothing more to it than just a simple, easy life.
Do you meet a lot of I would say, do you meet more younger people in Koh Samui than you would meet perhaps in Europe?
So it's a kind of tricky question because Koh Samui is super holiday island. So there is many young people who come here on a holiday, right? Just travelers, backpackers, holiday people. And they are locals who actually live there. So in general, people who live here are older. Many people come here to retire from European countries, US and so on. I kind of find it hard to find young generation community here which is not on a holiday and which is staying.
Well, this is Czechast. So let me ask you, do you meet some Czechs in Koh Samui or in Thailand in general?
Yeah, I have to say I was kind of surprised. Like, what a tiny country we are, and we are everywhere. So, yeah, I was kind of surprised how many Czech people I meet here. And it's not just people on a holidays, because you meet a lot of people on holiday. It's a popular destination for Czech. There are, like, easy flight connections. But, yeah, people actually come here to work, to live, to retire. We have, like, in Koh Samui, we have 2 Czech and Slovak clubs and pubs, so, yeah.
Really? So what do you do when you meet? I mean, just have a good time, socialize?
Yeah, just socialize, talk, and, yeah. I'm honestly, I don't have any Czech friends here, like close friends, just people I know, because they are different generation from me, so it's not like I hang out with them. Yeah, so you just meet them, you talk, and exchange your experiences.
Was there perhaps even now in the 21st century something like a cultural shock when you came to Thailand, or is this has this been erased gradually with the globalization?
Yeah, no, so certainly there still is, and I can also see it on, like, my friends and family when they come to visit and they've never been to Asia. You see kind of the poor parts as well. You see that, there are, like, people who are struggling. It's kind of a dirty in a way, so people are, like, culturally feel like in different kind of a world or universe. It's so different, but not for me, like, anymore as I used to it. I'm like, yeah, so there is no toilet, there is no water, like, that's just how it is. But what I would say, it's something that I still struggle with, and it comes maybe from that I'm a little bit of ADHD kind of brain person, and I'm still carry this, like, European mindset in my head, and it's the way how people are slow. And it sometimes gets to you, like, especially if you need to deal with authorities, send some emails over, you need some kind of service, and everything just takes forever, and it's not done into the standards as we are used to from Europe, that you deal with something, it's done. People leave. Here is like, it's done wrong, it needs to be redone. So, yeah, sometimes this is still tricky for me to wrap it around my head.
So, what kind of daily routine have you got? I admit I don't even know what the time difference is. What is your day like?
So the time difference is 5 to 6 hours plus, depending if you are on summertime or winter time. And that's, I have to say, it's one thing I love the most about living in Asia, is that I have European clients in Europe and I work on European hours, but my working day starts from like 2 p.m. when everybody wakes up, it's ready to work. So what I do is I wake up after 8, I go to my gym, do a CrossFit, have a nice peaceful breakfast morning. Maybe I would hang out around coffee shops and do a little bit of work. And then I start properly working and being on the calls from like 2 till 5, 6, 7 p.m. in the evening.
How do you combine? That's what I was wondering. How do you combine, this work to make enough money? Which I suppose is not about this kind of creativity, and the creative part of you.
It's the time and space which I'm allowed to have here. So even though I have a full-time job, I not always work 8 hours a day. Sometimes I work like 5, sometimes can be 10, can be 3, it really depends. And so having space in the mornings, it gives you time like to think about what you wanna do, the messaging you wanna tell, and I have a time to create the videos and so on. There are days when I have more time and less time, but it's about the whole sense of a lifestyle. Then you can work from home, if you have the freedom to do whatever, and it kind of give you like this need now. Okay, so what I'm gonna actually do with my free time now when I achieved it. Like I don't wanna watch Netflix, So yeah, that's what I came up with.
You are listening to Czechast, a podcast in English about all things Czech, past and present, and I'm Vít Pohanka. Today we are talking to Martina Šmídová, a young Czech woman who left behind a conventional path in Europe and is part of a generation that's redefining what it means to live, work and belong in the 21st century.
Do you still follow, I suppose, not Czech media, but some Czech websites? I mean, do you follow what's going on in Czechia?
Yeah, I do. I do follow politics, so every now and then I watch some kind of a podcast or read the news, and yeah.
Actually, the previous episode of podcast was about the distance or correspondence or postal vote. So if it's not I'm not asking you who you will vote for, but if you are going to vote, are you going back to Czechia or how are you going to vote?
Oh no, definitely. I'll be voting on the distance matters, which now I'm not sure if I don't think it's out yet properly, right? How, is it gonna work? But I know before we would have to fly to Bangkok, vote from Bangkok, which is 2-hour flight to go and vote. And some people in Czech, they don't even get out of their home, So that was tricky. I wasn't voting before because I would have to fly somewhere else. But now when it's going to be all digitalized, I definitely will, yeah.
I'm not quite sure whether it will be all digitalized, but you can vote by post. I don't know if you ever send a letter, but I think you have to register, but you can vote from where you are. You don't have to definitely go to Bangkok. You actually mentioned that your family and your friends sometimes come to see you. How often is that, if I may ask? And how often do you go back to Czechia?
Yeah, so I've been back to Czech once a year, past years. And my friends and family, it's my mom comes once in a year, my sister was there, my other family members. So it's not that often. Let's say we would have 2-3 times a year a visitor coming from Czech to here, but different person. So yeah, I would say once in a year somebody, shows up and comes.
And do you feel Czech or Moravian?
I feel Moravian for sure.
No, do you still feel Moravian or Czech in general sense from Czech Republic? How do you realize your Moravianness, if I may say, in Thailand?
It's kind of funny I realizing it now because I've started this Instagram account for Czech people about my life in Thailand, and I get so many comments on my accent and the way I appear that oh, she's Moravian from these Prague people. So I was is it that bad? The people actually realize that. So I'm getting this feedback, so I'm sensing that much more than I've used to before. But yeah, other than that, I don't think it matters when you come to Asia, if you're from either Czech or Germany or somewhere else, it's still the European mindset. It's still kind of same and so different from the Asian mindset that it doesn't really matter from kind of what part of, the place you're from.
In my generation, again, we, felt that we were still from eastern part of Europe, even though we are from Central Europe. And there was this divide, I think. And it seems to me, when I look at my kids, I don't want to say that there is no divide anymore, but, you know, they spend much more, those young people who can and who want, they can spend more time abroad on Erasmus, study programs, etc. So you don't really feel any kind of chip on your shoulder because you are from this part of Europe and there's someone else from, I don't know, Britain or France or Germany.
Yeah, we kind of bump into it a lot because most of my friends are European and they do feel like Czech is Eastern European. Many of them think it's still Czechoslovakia, so that's another issue. But
They still do, yeah?
Yeah. And so many people in Thailand, they ask me, where are you from? I'm like, from Czech. They're like, Czechoslovakia. And they, oh, yeah, I know. So it's still there. After all those years, it's still there. Anyway, when talking like to my friends from Europe, they feel like they put us into the Eastern European part. I generally think, and when I meet other people from more Eastern European parts, that we are more like westernized, in that matter, more like Central Europe mindset. Just when you compare, you know, us to like Slovakia or like, you know, other parts. So I feel we are leading more into the westernized.
It's really interesting that you mentioned that because when I first came to work abroad in Paris at UNESCO of all places, I mean this venerable institution back in 1996 again, by the way, and I would say je suis Czech, and they would say vous êtes de la Czechoslovaquie.
Yeah.
And I was feeling nearly, well, not offended, but I was surprised that the French didn't kind of register after then 3 years, you know, that Czechoslovakia separated. So for me, it's very interesting to hear that it still survives. I mean, this kind of Czechoslovak thing.
It does, and I think it's the education system. I think I saw recently that even in US, they would still teach we are Czechoslovakia in schools. So it's, you know.
I actually checked your Instagram account, and I mean, I didn't check all the posts, but it's in Czech, isn't it?
Yes, it is in Czech. I kind of wanted to relate to Czech audience, and I kind of felt like there is so many people who don't speak English, and they would like find my content handy, and I could motivate some people, you know, who are from the same part of the world with the same like childhood experiences and so on. So that's why I decided to target a Czech audience.
That's again very interesting. I struggle with that as well. But the question is, I mean, if you did it in English, wouldn't the audience potentially be much larger?
Of course. The potential when you can grow with like English accounts, it's so different. But on the other hand, there is also so many competitors in English. So I just choose this one. I felt more comfortable also doing the content in Czech than in English. So.
And you want to keep it that way?
Yeah. For now, we'll see in the future, but for near future, for sure. Yeah.
I think in one of the things that you either said in the recent, very good interview for Business Insider, or whether I read it somewhere, was that living abroad made you realize life doesn't have to follow a fixed script. Yeah. Do you acknowledge, I mean, this kind of observation? And how has that realization kind of shaped your plans for the future? If life doesn't follow a fixed script, I suppose you don't have any plans.
Yeah. So what I meant by the fixed script is what I was kind of brought into, and I think many Czech people can relate to it. It's you grow up, you get a good job, you build a house, you find a husband, and you make a kids, and this is what the life looks like, and this is how you live, right? And I've kind of been there. I've built my house when I was over 21 years old. I've been there for 6 months in the dream house, and I was like, I'm done. This is not my dream, you know. Doesn't feel right. So this is basically just to put straight what I meant by that. But once I started traveling, I even met older people in their 40s, 50s, who, for instance, chose not to have kids. And I would talk to them, and then I was like, wait, that's an option. Like you can you kind of don't realize like it doesn't have to be like that. You're being told, but like it's actually a choice, and it was like a huge realization for me. Like it's like, oh dear, so there is so many things I can actually choose how my life looks like and not follow the society's kind of expectations. Yeah, so does that answer your question?
I think it does, yeah. Just one little thing. How about, do you communicate only in English, or are you learning Thai perhaps?
I know a little bit of Thai, so like hello, numbers and things like that. But I communicate mostly in English. And I'm kind of ashamed because I've been living here for a while. I should learn the language, and I will. But it's so weird because it's such a different language to learn. It's really like voicey. So if you say certain words in different tone of voice, then they mean different things. So it was kind of tricky. I've tried multiple times already to learn it. And it's just, I know my brain isn't doing well with it. But the reason why I would want to learn Thai is so many Thai people don't really speak good English. And you can tell if you speak back to them in Thai, you have such a different experience of the connection, the way they accept you, and so on.
You did answer my question about having plans and, not having plans, but do you see yourself as an expat, Czech expat, living in Thailand in, 5-10 years' time?
Yeah, I do. I definitely want to stay in Thailand for a few more years, and then I'll see what's going to happen. As I said before, I have a sense like the island is going to be changing a lot. So if it gets like crowded and uncomfortable, I may be looking into other places where to go in the future, but I don't really feel myself coming back to Czech if I still can have an online income, which I hope I will.
But you will stay from Moravia and you will stay Czech. I mean, you don't want to go native, as they say sometimes. I suppose that's something that you could observe if a young person moves, let's say, to the United States or Britain.
Right.
That some of them just decide to become basically British or American.
Yeah, no, I want to stay Czech. I definitely want to stay Czech. There is no need for me to become a Thai person so yeah.
I'm jumping here a little bit, but you said you follow politics, and again, this is not a question about your political preferences. What do you think about Czech politics compared to an exotic place like Thai politics? Because it's been quite turbulent as well.
It's super different. There is a democracy in a way in Thailand, but it's not like democracy we know. We have a king and a queen in Thailand, so it's a kingdom. They're like it's just so different in the all Asian countries of what you can do, what you can say. It presents itself as a democracy, but it sometimes may feel a little bit of a like communism, dictatorism, democracy in a way. But yeah, there is still a freedom for people and.
And the Czech politics, what do you think about what's going on in Czech politics?
Yeah, I am kind of afraid, to be honest, especially with social media and all of the boats, like what's happening in that matter. I'm kind of afraid we're gonna end up like Slovakia, and I still hope that it's not gonna happen. It's just, I think what I see that we kind of lack sense of education in like what's fake news, what's not. And it's not just in Czech, really, it's all around the world. Like every country struggles with it, even if it's US or, other European countries. So that's what like scares me, is people believe propagandas much more than I would like expected them to. But I don't think it's much difference from any part of the world either.
Finally, what would you recommend to a young woman or a young person in Czechia who might be somewhere between 20, 25 and doesn't want to get stuck in the process? I mean, what should he or she do? Is there a recipe?
Yeah, I think even what I get from my audience is they're kind of feeling stuck, either financially that they cannot afford to do something, or stuck in a way that they're scared to like do certain steps to become whatever they want to. And the message I would say that is feeling lost doesn't mean that you're failing. It actually means that maybe you're waking up and you're realizing something is not going right. Many people don't even realize it and they live in the circle. And if people are feeling stuck and lost, I kind of feel they're in a realization mode of like, okay, so there is gonna, this doesn't feel right, there's gonna be something else. So I would say just don't wait for the perfect plan or perfect moment or somebody to help you out. Just go with it. Just risk, fail, learn, fail again, and that's how you achieve things. And really, that's what I did. I didn't have a plan B. I didn't know what I'm gonna do. I didn't know how I'm gonna earn money. I lost my jobs on the way in and out, and it's just, if you have no other option, you will have to figure it out anyway.
Says a Moravian living in Koh Samui, Thailand now. Martina, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an amazing talk. Thank you for the space.
And take care.
Take care too. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Czechast with me, Vít Pohanka, talking to Martina Šmídová, a young Czech living in Thailand. Thanks so much for joining us today. And if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to follow, rate or share it with someone you think might like it too. It really helps us reach more listeners. And if you have any comments, questions or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. Just write to us at english@radio.cz. And let me mention, you can also find many more interviews, stories and features on our website, radio.cz. I'm Vít Pohanka. Until next time, take care. Thanks for listening and naslyšenou.
Czechast, a podcast in English about all things Czech. Whether you're an English-speaking expat living in Czechia and Slovakia, or a descendant of the Czechs, Moravians and Slovaks who left for a better life in America, Australia, Britain or Canada so long ago that you don't speak the language of the old country, this podcast in English is for you.